Welcome back to the channel, guys. Kerrod here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the #1 checkpoint that you need to look for in the downswing that's going to ensure that you're going to get your ball started on line with your target and give you a better chance of hitting the ball where you want. Let's get into it. Now, there's a lot of moving parts in the golf swing, but without a doubt, the most important thing that you must be looking for when analyzing your golf swing is what your club face is doing. At the end of the day, club face is king, and the ball is going to start where this is aiming. So, what checkpoint do we look for, and what exactly are we looking to observe to ensure that you're going to get the most amount of consistency and repeatability out of your swing and out of that ball contact? Well, it all happens in the downswing. So if I get to the top of my backswing and start to make my way down into this checkpoint here, regardless of what I've done throughout, because as a golfer and as a dynamic motion, we can make all sorts of compensations and matchups. We're not looking for a specific cookie cutter motion to really be perfect throughout the entirety, but really at the end of the day, all this golf ball cares about is what that club face is doing as it hits the golf ball. So that's what we need to check, and the way that we do that is in the last parallel of the downswing. So I'm going to make a backswing, I'm going to make a downswing, and in this checkpoint right here, this is where all the magic happens. So this club face here, what we're looking for is the toe of the golf club, so this part right here, and the leading edge. They're going to be what we're really observing by this stage of the downswing. Now, if my club face was straight up and down, so perpendicular to the ground, in this frame here, if I was to swing through towards the golf ball with rotation, my face would be open. Now, this might be different to what you've heard previously about the toe needing to be up by this stage and up by this stage. Effectively, what that does, it just encourages too much club face rotation through impact, and it's going to make it a little bit more challenging to get your ball started repeatedly on line with your target. So what I am, however, looking for is the club face in the downswing to be slightly tipped towards the ground. So if we've got this reference of our club face, you can see that it's somewhat matching my spine angle by this stage of the downswing. Now, yes, there are variations. If you were a player that had the club face open, you would need to rely on your hands flipping and releasing to square that face, but there's plenty of high-level golfers that do it. I'm not saying that's a bad thing by any means. I'm just saying that if you're a recreational golfer and you don't have that much time to work on your golf swing, my recommendation is that, if anything, you have the club face turned down to the ground by this stage rather than up, especially if you're someone who struggles with slicing the golf ball. An open club face by this stage of the swing just really makes it hard to manage what that club face is doing as it strikes the golf ball. So that is what we call an open club face coming down into impact, when the club itself is anywhere less than slightly turned down to the ground. So let's say just straight up and down, or even open into that position. The alternative to that would be if the club face was too closed down. Now, if you're looking at someone like a Dustin Johnson, he would be very closed down by this part. And generally what we tend to see with these players is they would need a lot of speed and a lot of body rotation to stabilize that club face at impact and then keep it squarer through the moment as you strike the golf ball. If you're someone who doesn't hit the golf ball very long, I would tend to say that having a club face which is too closed is going to make it very challenging to get enough height and get enough distance on your golf shots, even though it might lead to a more compressed strike. So what is the middle ground, and what exactly are we looking for? Well, it all boils down to the club face angle as it comes down into this position, somewhat matching our spine angle. So if that's straight up and down, that's turned down to the ground, I'm going to look about halfway in between. We don't need to quantify that number, but effectively from that position there, if I was to just turn towards the golf ball, that would mean that my club face is square to the arc, and as my body then turns and releases, it's going to be a much more simple process to get that club back to the ball and square that club face up at the moment of impact and really help you get that ball started much more on line with your intended target, rather than having to rely on all sorts of compensations with the club face being open and having to flip it, or the club face being too closed and having to rotate excessively hard just to square it up. So as you can see, there are some variations, but my recommendation by this halfway down position is to see the club face slightly tip down towards the ground. In my experience with all the players that I coach, is going to be a far simpler and more easy way to get that club back on that ball time and time again and get your ball started on your intended line. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please like and subscribe, comment below if you got any questions, but until next time, I'm Kerrod. Thanks for watching.